tuned in to the Shockwaves VideoCast presented by Bob Nalbandian, host of the Shockwaves/Hard Radio podcast on hardradio.com and the Shockwaves Skull Sessions podcast on roadrunnerrecords.com/Skull Sessions.
All right, Shockwaves VideoCast here with my good friend, Mr. Herman Rarebell. Herman Z. German, legendary drummer from the Scorpions. How you doing, my friend?
Well, nice to meet you again, Bob, after all these years, huh?
Yeah, always good to have you meet with you here when you're in LA. You got the new book, and speaking of Scorpions, just released, Amazon.com, and of course on your website,
Yep.
HermanRarebell.com. You get autograph copies available on that site,
If
correct?
you go to my website, absolutely, personally.
Very cool. And you're here on a little book tour. I know you were just in the Bay Area. You're going to Vegas tomorrow.
Yeah.
Doing a little book. How's that going?
It went actually fantastic, and I was surprised how many Scorpions fans are out there, and everybody's coming up to me, oh, Herman, we are so happy to see you finally. And what surprised me very much, 2 days ago, I was at the university in Fresno.
Right.
And I did a little speech there in the morning, and we had like 900 people in the concert place. So I played a few of the old tunes which I wrote, you know. And the audience went crazy, and those are all people between 18 and 25.
Yeah.
So what was
A lot of
really
young
funny,
kids.
a lot of those young people bought the book, but they bought it for their parents as a Christmas present, and said, "We heard
as long as
nothing.
they buy it."
We heard nothing in the house than Scorpions music since we were babies, you know.
Right.
So finally we meet you. So that was a pleasant surprise for me, and so far so good, you know.
All right. Well, you obviously got a lot of things going on. We'll talk. A lot of people know you're back playing with Michael Schenker now. I know it was originally called Strangers in the Night, and you did a video Saturday night.
Yeah.
But now it's basically known as the Michael, kind of like the Michael Schenker group. It's,
Yeah. Well, what it was, you know, when we went out playing, you know, a lot of promoters said to us, well, we will have to explain too many times who is in Strangers in the Night. Why
Sure.
don't you just call it Michael Schenker featuring Herman Rarebell, featuring Pete Way, who was with us on that video. And that's what we did, you know, when we did the England tour just in July now. So for some of you who like to check this out, what we are doing, go to the High Voltage Festival on the 24th of July. Go on YouTube, and then you can see it there.
right.
Put
The
it
High Voltage Festival, big festival
Yeah.
in England.
in London.
In London. And you also did quite a few dates. Now, I know Pete just joined you on a few of the dates. What's going on with Pete Way? Is he going to continue
to
playing
be honest
with you?
we don't know either, you know, if he's going to be in the end our bass player because of all the problems he has. We will have to see, you know, how that will work out, especially here in the United States. But definitely Michael and myself, we added at the moment, as you know, Rudolph joined us at the High Voltage
Right.
Festival. So this could be a possible future perspective, you know. Let's see, it's all early stages, you know, but you know we've been together before, and
Right.
it would be funny to have the original boys back together again.
Oh, absolutely. I hope you can bring it over to the States, especially with Pete, because
Yeah,
obviously
absolutely.
I haven't seen him in
I hope so
ages.
too.
Yeah.
Let's see, you know, what will happen.
All right. And now, speaking of Scorpions, as the book implies, you are Scorpions obviously doing their upcoming farewell tour and going to be joined with Michael Schenker, Uli Roth, and of course Herman Rarebell. Is that you got? I know it's kind of early as far as dates and stuff, but you are working on.
We've been
this final
asked, you
tour?
know, to join some of the shows, but we have no idea when
Right.
and where, you know. So at the moment, everybody's going their own way. As you know, I'm doing this thing with Michael. So let's see what that will take us to. I have also my own band, Herman Z. German and Band,
Right.
where I will also go out next year in the summer and play a few biker festivals in Germany, all over Europe.
Right on.
So yeah, it's a fun thing. I got, as you know, in the band, 2 girls, you know,
Sure.
female guitar player and female saxophone player.
Right.
Go to my website and check it out, hermanrarebell.com. You can see actually out of a live performance I did this year in June, you can see the best 15 minutes, you know, made
Right
a
on.
little trailer of that.
And Take It As It Comes. That was the album you
Yeah,
released last year. Are
absolutely.
you doing some new recordings?
I haven't done any new recordings because I've been literally out since I finished that album, being on the road promoting the album, now promoting the book.
Sure.
Now this new project with Michael Schenker. I simply have no time actually
Right.
at the moment to go in and produce or write another album.
And you're back living in England, in Brighton, right next to Michael Schenker. You say
Yeah.
Also, you ran into Phil Mogg the other day. He lives pretty
Yeah,
close
but
to you.
he
It's
was
a
actually the
television.
first one of the 3 of us being there.
Right.
And it's a funny story. One day I was walking along the seaside And there I see Phil Mogg, and Phil Mogg says to me, "Oh, Herman, you know, I know you live here, but I just seen a guy who looks like Michael Schenker." It was Michael, who moved actually to Brighton also about a year after I've been there. So I've been there now for 3 years. Michael literally 1.5 years.
Now, the interesting thing, I know we had talked about this before, when you first moved over to England back in the early 70s, it was actually Michael Schenker, who was in England, who was in UFO, that introduced you to the Scorpions. And
Absolutely.
Got you,
The other circle is closing again, as you can see.
Right.
So I was in England in the early 70s, and Michael played already in UFO, and we were basically the only German musicians hanging in London at the time.
Right.
And of course, we got to meet each other. And one day, Michael told me my brother has a band called the Scorpions. They're looking for a drummer. I met Rudolf Schenker, his brother, the same night at the Speakeasy. And then Rudolf said, "We're playing tomorrow at the Marquis Club, and after that, we do an audition at the Sound Circus. We're looking for a drummer. Why don't you come?" What he didn't tell me was that it was another 50 drummers there too.
Right.
And so we each played 3 songs, and then I heard the famous "Don't call us, we call you."
Right.
So I thought I never hear from them, but sure enough, the next day they called, "Can we take your drums? We would like you to be our new drummer." And I said, "Slow." I said, "I have still to do a lot of unfinished business here in England," but that gave them the drums, which I took to Hanover. And a week later, I was in Hanover, and the rest is history.
And you went to Japan shortly after that, right? Where the Tokyo tapes recorded.
Yes, we went to Japan. Uli Ross was still in the band. We recorded there the famous Tokyo tapes, and one of my famous drum solos is on there, top of the bill.
Of course, yes.
I heard that probably
Classic.
from every American drummer by now. Yeah, listen to that, dude. So this was a very funny time for me, actually. And then afterwards, when Uli left, as you know, Michael came in the band again, played the Love Drive album. He played my song, Another Piece of Meat, another song which we wrote lyrics for and music, and then, of course, Loving You Sunday Morning, Love Drive, and Coast to Coast, and On Holiday. So basically, we gonna play out of that album a few songs live now. Also,
awesome! One of my favorite all-time albums.
So we play songs from that album, and of course we play UFO songs, and of course new stuff. So this is the combination, and let's see what the future brings, But it's funny that we all now back together again. The circle seems to close again where we left it.
Absolutely. Well, Scorpions were the premier German hard rock heavy metal band. There really were no other hard rock bands in Germany from the 70s. You had what they called krautrock, kind of the space rock kind of bands.
Different, huh?
Yeah, Guru, Jane, Lucifer's Friend, Amandul. But none of them were really Eloy. I remember all these bands, but they were kind of more just real spacey rock. Now, you guys were really you brought hard rock and heavy metal really into all of Europe.
Yeah,
you had bands from, I guess, Holland, Golden Earring, and maybe Focus, but you were really the only hard rock metal band throughout the whole decade until like the 80s when Accept came out in 79, 80. What was that? That must have been real odd in Germany being really the only hard rock metal band.
Well, don't forget, I lived in England, as you know, 6 years before, from 71 to 77, before I joined the Scorpions.
Sure.
And I went for the same reason to England, because I always thought in my mind, I must make it internationally. There's no point for me just to be famous in Germany, in Austria, and Switzerland, all over the world. So if you want to do this, you have to do it in English. So I went to England to learn the language, so I could write lyrics in English. And when me and Rudolf met, we had the same vision, the same dream. Let's conquer the world. Let's go to America. And you remember in the beginning, the record companies in Germany laughed at us. You want to go to America?
Right.
Sure, they're waiting there for you. Yeah. They have no rock bands over there. This was their argument. And we said, no, we're going to play there. You will see. And when 1979, David Krebs and Peter Mensch phoned us up and said, we would like to manage the band, we jumped up the ceiling, because it meant for us we could be opening act for Aerosmith, for AC/DC, and Ted Nugent.
Right.
That was for us, our dream came true. We could go to America and play here.
Right on.
And look what happened.
Oh, absolutely. All right, and speaking of lyrics, I know maybe a lot of people don't know, you were the primary lyricist-songwriter in the Scorpions. Obviously, Scorpions had been around with Uli Roth, very underground here in the States, released some fantastic albums. You came in, during Taken by Force and, of course, the Tokyo tapes, and you became a chief songwriter in the band. Of course, you wrote some of their biggest hits, No One Like You, Another Piece of Meat, Rock You Like
I
a
didn't
Hurricane.
do Nova Like You. I did Rocky Like
Rocky
a
Like a
Hurricane.
Hurricane.
Blackout, and of course
Blackout.
Make It Real and stuff like this. Another Piece of Meat. They were all my songs. Falling in Love. But Nova Like You I didn't. Also, I never did the ballads. Klaus was brilliant in those ballads.
Absolutely.
Wind of Change and Still Loving You. I did more like the rock and roll stuff, you know.
Right, right.
It's early morning, the sun comes out. Last night was shaking and pretty loud. That's Herman Rarebell.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty awesome for you to come in. And of course, you said being from England, that helped you a lot.
Of course.
With a.
I think I was simply spoke the best English in those years, 78, 77, when I came in the band. And my first lyrics for the band were, "He's a woman, she's a man," you know.
Right.
Which was a true story which came out of a visit to
Great
Paris.
story. You've told me this.
You remember? So basically, when they then read the lyrics and everybody seemed to like them, of course, I was then asked on the next album, which was Love Drive, why don't you write some more lyrics? I also came with the introduction and said, hey, I got also a new song here called Another Piece of Meat. When I played the riff the first time to Rudolph, he said, hey, this is a great riff. I think I have a great middle part for this, you know.
So you played guitar too, obviously.
No, I composed that song on piano, you know.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
wow. Interesting.
That kind of. I studied piano in the Music Academy in Saarbrücken and drums. So
Right
they
on.
were the two things I had there. You will read all this in the book, the early days, you know, how I got involved in music and what involved.
Absolutely. All in the book right here. Right
All in
here.
the book,
Well,
yeah.
talking about the lyrics, I mean, really, Scorpions really bring the whole, what later became known as like the LA kind of hair metal sound, style, lyrics, music. Scorpions were doing that long before.
Yeah.
And particularly you with your lyrics, you kind of brought in, dare I say, that sleazy kind of style with
Yeah.
the lyrics and of course the album covers, which were just phenomenal. Hypnosis, Love Drive, one of the best album covers. But you really pushed it to the limit, especially back then in the late
Yeah.
70s. I mean, you know, you were banned a lot, like the albums, you know, the covers were banned, the lyrics were, you know, like frowned upon. You couldn't get radio play. And this was long before, obviously, the LA bands, you know, Motley Crue, Rat, even Def Leppard, even before Van Halen, you know, and of course the story, you know, Eddie Van Halen was a huge fan of Uli.
Yeah.
I've heard that he used to
He-
lock
he
himself
told-
in his room
Yeah,
playing.
he told me many times.
Yeah, yeah. So
That he said, we played Catch Your Train, he told me.
Yeah.
They said here in
you
the
can
way
actually
in the
find
bar.
that, I think, on online.
Yeah,
from
yeah.
doing-
So basically, he told me that Uli Ross was a huge influence for him.
Right. And you too with the lyrics into that. I mean, you basically started the whole decadent kind of
Another
lifestyle
piece of
it-
meat.
Of
Don't
course.
make no promises.
There were-
Everybody can keep. I know. Many people told me this. You
You're
know, but
responsible.
I'm responsible. Sorry, kids. You know.
But great stuff. And you're still in, I mean, you were kind of a mentor too. I know bands like Motley Crue and Bon Jovi, you helped them out a lot. I know the first tour Bon Jovi did was
Motley
opening for
Crue, actually,
Scorpions.
Tommy Lee, you know, and Vince Neil went to the Whiskey a Go-Go. So Tommy comes straight towards me and says, yes, you're Herman, and we're looking for a producer. I have a great tape for you. So he gave me the tape, and they were very much into me being the producer for this, for them. So a few days later, I got a phone call from Rudolph. We are in the middle of writing here. You have to come back to Hanover. I was here in L.A., and this was the famous Blackout album. So went over there, and then when I was there, Klaus lost his voice, and we waited for him for 9 months. You remember those
Yeah, I
days?
remember. Now, was there truth behind? They said Don Dokken was kind of in the band during that time.
Well,
Or?
what Don did to clear this once and forever here, Don came and helped us with some guidelines, you know. So we, as musicians, knew at least how the song went, you know, and we didn't have to rehearse it dry, you know. But he didn't sing on the album. That's obviously Klaus Meine. Nobody
Sure.
can copy Klaus. Klaus is Klaus.
One
and
of a
point.
kind.
And one of a kind, fantastic singer. So Don helped us out, and we're very thankful until this day. And as you know, Don is a very close friend of mine. He sang on 3 songs on my
Herman
solo
the
album.
German,
Herman
the
the
Bud,
German, for
yeah.
instance, the first one. He sang a song called I Say Goodbye. He sang Destiny, and he sang another song called Heart Sensation. So he's just a fantastic singer. Also another album, Charlie Hoon from Ted Nugent's band, Steve Marriott, the one and only
Humble
famous,
Pie, sure.
and from Chuck Russell from the Great White Band. You know,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I was very lucky to have those great singers.
That's a great album. If you could get your hands on it, find it.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is
definitely
actually a great album.
super group. So before the super groups were around.
Before that, yeah.
In the book, you also, I'm sure the stories, I haven't had a chance to actually read through the whole book, but I know you've got a hell of a story. I mean, you were living in Morocco for a while. You had a label with the Prince of Morocco, doing that for about 10 years or so.
No, that I did immediately after my departure from the Scorpions from 1996, summer until 2001. We had that label. We had actually bad luck to get in a time where the internet took over big time and put away all those big companies from Sony to EMI and Polygram. They're over and out of business. Unfortunately, us too.
Right. Well, great. So, and what other stories could people expect in the new book apart from...
Well, basically, I talk about the Scorpions, obviously.
Right.
And I talk how we made it in America from an unknown German band, becoming one of the biggest bands here in America, and the biggest bands in the world. Of course, I talk about those 20 years, which I call the golden years with the Scorpions, because it was really, for me, the 80s were tremendous. I played on all those big albums. I wrote a lot of lyrics for those big albums. Very proud of that. So I talk about the time before, when I started as a young musician, before I came to the Scorpions in London, how Michael Schenker connected me with them. And of course I talk about the thing afterwards, about my philosophies in life, which I demonstrated on my album, Take It As It Comes.
Right.
So all those things are in the book. And being a Scorpion from Zodiac sign, I'm talking not only about the band, I talk about myself, of course, in there as well, you know.
Right. Well, you obviously still, have a great relationship with the Scorpions.
Yeah.
I mean, you did shows with them, with Uli and Michael Schenker in Germany, and I'm just hoping you guys come here to the States soon. I mean, that's like, will be the ultimate tour. What do you think about, I mean, to end, all these bands are saying, these farewell tours, Scorpions, Judas Priest have said it, Kiss had said it 17 years ago and are still going on. But, sooner or later, these bands are going to end. What do you see about the future? I mean, sooner or later, the big arena bands are all going to retire, and there's really not a whole lot of new bands that are able to take their place.
Well, the question is how long you want to go out. When you look at musicians like B.B. King or Chuck Berry, they're well over the 80s.
True.
They still go out and perform. Me personally, I like to go out and perform as long as I can do it physically, as long as I'm healthy. I keep myself in a good shape, so I think maybe another 10, 12 years, maybe another 20 years. I don't mind. I wouldn't know what else to do, Bob.
Right.
But there are some other musicians who say, okay, I want to really call it a day now. I'm 65 now or whatever, and I like to do something else. I respect both decisions. Everybody has to follow his heart.
Sure.
But I'm definitely going to be one you're still going to hear still a lot of music from. I have a feeling it's the same with the Schenker brothers. So who knows?
Can't wait for that.
Maybe you're going to see us very soon again together.
I hope so. Herman, it was a pleasure.
For me too.
Definitely check out the new book. And speaking of Scorpions, available at Amazon.com. And on Herman's website, you could get an autographed copy that is at HermanRarebell.com. Thank you again, Herman.
Pleasure. Thank
you,
Bob.
Take care.
See you soon.
All righty.